The family of Jeffrey Epstein victim, Virginia Giuffre, is now speaking out about the strategy dinner top Trump administration officials are set to have tonight. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins broke this reporting. Caitlin, what is her family saying?
Yeah, Pamela, obviously the family of Virginia Giuffre has been weighing in ever since President Trump first acknowledged on Air Force One in recent days that Jeffrey Epstein had lured her away from his Mar-a-Lago club. Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her away. And I spoke with them last week, and one thing they reiterated was they want, in the conversations that have been happening on the administration's handling of this, is for people to remember the survivors and the victims at the heart of all of this. And they've issued a new statement on our team's reporting last night about this meeting that is planned at the vice president's house tonight regarding what the administration's strategy on Jeffrey Epstein is. And in this statement obtained by my colleague, Nicolle Wallace, they say that they understand that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is holding a strategy session this evening at his residence. They say, quote, missing from this group is, of course, any survivor of the vicious crimes of convicted perjurer and sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. They say their voices must be heard above all, and we also call upon the House subcommittee to invite survivors to testify. Now, that last is notable because also we've seen how House Republicans have been handling this, calling on the DOJ to release the Epstein documents with a subpoena coming out from the House Oversight Chair James Comer yesterday. They are just saying essentially that in the terms of how the administration is handling this and also how Congress is handling this, that what is important to listen to here are the survivors and are the victims in all of this. And they say that that should be included as the administration is plotting what their next move is going to look like. We know part of that could include a public appearance by the Deputy Attorney General after he sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell for about 10 hours. Whether or not that ultimately happens still remains to be seen, but a notable statement from her family coming out this morning.
It certainly is notable. We'll see if we get any response from the administration on this. Caitlin, thank you so much.
My next guest is one of the hundreds of women who survived Jeffrey Epstein's abuse, I should note on a serious note. Jess Michaels was living in New York and working as a professional dancer in the early 90s when she says that Epstein raped her when she was 22 years old. She's now an advocate for survivors and also the founder of Three Joannes, a resource for sexual assault first aid. And she joins me now. And it's so great to have you here because I understand that you never met Ghislaine Maxwell, which I think is an important point as we talk about kind of what the next steps are for the Justice Department. But I just wonder, with your experience and what happened, what it is like for you to watch all of this playing out in the way that it is here in Washington.
So firstly, Caitlin, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, for inviting a survivor's perspective. This is not something that is happening nearly enough. What is most excruciating to me, besides all of the physical symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder that are being revisited by not just Epstein survivors, but every survivor out there right now that feels unsafe because of what's happening. What I think is really important to note, and this is only my opinion, is I'm seeing the normalization and decriminalization of sexual assault, rape, and pedophilia and sex trafficking. That's how it feels.
And is that because of how people are treating Ghislaine Maxwell, or just what do you attribute that to?
I attribute it to the election of someone that has 28 accusers and is an adjudicated rapist. The cabinet members that all have accusations against them, and no one is batting an eye. No one has done anything about it or said anything about it. It's just been accepted. We're being desensitized to the idea that sexual assault is not that big of a deal. It is the lack of an investigation into these Epstein files. There are survivors that have been sharing their story for decades. Sharing what happened. They did all the right things. They approached the authorities that they were supposed to approach. And it has been ignored over and over and over again. And one of the things that I see happening, everyone is listening right now because it's about Epstein and this world of powerful people and wealth. And yet this is exactly what happens on the local level, on the state level, in our country every single day. Only 10% of cases are actually prosecuted, and only 2.5% end up in jail. So what we're seeing is that play out on the highest level in our country.
Yeah, and I should just note there, given your reference to the president, he was found liable for sexual assault. He's obviously denied that. We watched that all play out in court as they're still fighting the decision there. But on this front overall, I do agree in your point about having survivors on. That's why we had Virginia Giuffre's family here last week as well to speak about her experience and what she went through, because I do think that is a forgotten perspective in a lot of this as we talk about subpoenas and the fight that's happening in courts is what we've also heard from survivors. So Jess Michaels, I want to say thank you for coming on and joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
And new polling shows a majority of Americans believes that the White House is hiding information about Epstein. So joining us now to discuss is Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois. He is a member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, nice to have you on. So we're hearing this morning from the family of Virginia Giuffre, perhaps the most well-known victim of Epstein, who died by suicide earlier this year, asking in a statement why none of the survivors were invited to this meeting at the vice president's residence. What's your response to that?
I think that's a good question. I think that right now, a lot of people are just scratching their heads wondering why they won't release the deposition transcript or the interview transcript, why the interview even happened in the first place, why Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a low security or lower security prison. Was she given something, or did she give up something in exchange for that? These are the questions that are swirling around this, and people want answers. They want sunshine and transparency on what's going on with the Epstein files.
Giuffre's family is also calling for the House Oversight Subcommittee to invite survivors to testify. Are you open to that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we need to shine a light on the harm that Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein did. The DOJ revealed that over 1,000 victims of these heinous crimes are suffering right now because of what's happening. And I think that that's in part why there's so much pressure on both Republicans and everybody to release these files ASAP.
Has the Oversight Committee received a response from DOJ on the subpoena for the files?
No, not to my knowledge. They have 2 weeks to basically produce these files. I'm hopeful that the DOJ complies, but at the same time, I don't know how they're going to comply. That being said, there's tremendous pressure. I mean, we're receiving a lot of outreach from constituents and otherwise calling for the release of these files. I suspect my Republican colleagues are as well.
Your committee also issued subpoenas for several high-profile officials on the Epstein matter, including Bill and Hillary Clinton and former FBI directors James Comey and Robert Mueller. Have you received responses from any of them?
Not to my knowledge. I think that at this point, those subpoenas or those requests have just gone out within the last couple of days. So I expect we'll be receiving responses in a timely fashion, hopefully soon.
So we also know that the Justice Department has this audio recording and transcript of the interview Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche conducted with Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. The administration is considering releasing those publicly. Do you support that?
Oh, absolutely. They should release the transcript. They should release the audio recording. We need to know exactly what the Deputy Attorney General asked of Ghislaine Maxwell, how she answered, and why this even happened in the first place. It's very unusual. I think the fact that she is desperately seeking a pardon or some form of clemency, the fact that Donald Trump is not willing to rule it out, is also why I've introduced a resolution that basically opposes any form of clemency for this hardened sex trafficker.
Yeah, tell us more about that, because you offered this resolution urging the president and DOJ not to offer any form of clemency to Maxwell in exchange for her testimony. The president has said he has the power to issue pardons, but he hasn't ruled it out. Do you have any buy-ins from Republicans to pass the resolution?
Not to my knowledge. I think they're very scared of the president. And I think that at this point, we need to say with one voice that there can't be a pardon or any form of clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell. That would be basically a cover-up of what's happening right now. In general, the pardon power has been abused by this president. We need to have longer-term reforms with regard to that issue. But in this particular case, it kind of is one of those situations where I believe the vast majority of Americans oppose any form of clemency for Maxwell, and we need to say that with one voice in Congress as well.
Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, thank you so much.